TC Hill is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
Hello and welcome back to Kick It Naturally. This is episode 368. I'm your host, TC Hale, and I'm going to tell you about some stuff that is a little bit zany. So I'm starting to record a lot more episodes with guests. I just kind of want to start learning about more stuff. I blab about the same stuff and I want to learn some new things. So I've been having some guests come on, and I just want to share this guy as soon as I recorded. Sean McCormick is from the Optimal Performance podcast, and he does a lot of biohacking stuff, and some of it's just a little bit freaky, even for me, which is pretty freaky because we know I'm a little bit freaky. Now, some of the stuff Sean talks about might not necessarily be legal in your area, so to speak. So you gotta kind of have to figure out for yourself what you want to look into and such. But most of what we talked about is fine. You'll be able to do it just fine. But a lot of people view biohacking very differently. There's different levels and different ways that people view it, and I view it more as looking at your physiology to kind of figure out that you actually can improve issues. And some people like to use a lot of devices and a lot of tools and tricks and procedures and techniques and things like that. So I kind of wanted to dig into some of those. So Sean was one of the first people that I really wanted to have on the show, just because I wanted to learn more about some of the other types of biohacking things that people are doing. So check out this interview, and I think you're going to find some great usable information. So here goes my interview with Sean McCormick. And I'm here with Sean McCormick. Sean McCormick, what is happening?
Oh man, I'm so excited. I like that energy. I will match that energy. I'm ready to go.
Right now, you have to actually say things that count. If I'm awake, you got to make it to where there's a reason that I'm awake.
Well, your listeners, everyone that's listening right now, is about to learn some things that they didn't know before, and have some tools and some interesting hacks to help them be better in their life.
Right. I have you on board for freaky stuff. So I want you to supply some freakiness, because we have things that, there's levels of freakiness. Like if a person is mainstream, then what I say is going to freak them out. They're going to be, what are you talking about? But I want to take my listeners who have been freaked out by me, and I want to up that a dose. I want to freak them out even a little bit more. So that's our mission for today.
Well, you talking to the right guy. Let's get after it.
Okay. Well, Sean is the host of the Optimal Performance podcast, and that you weren't always the host of that, right? How did that come about?
Yeah, I took over for Ryan Muncie, who went through from episode 1 to 153, and he broke off to go do his own podcast. And I knew the owners of Natural Stacks, who were the producers of the OPP. They're friends of mine. They floated at my float center in Seattle. We carried their products, and they said, "Hey, Sean, we want you to host the podcast." And I said, "Well, I've never done that before." And they said, "Yeah, we don't care. Just do it." So fast forward to now episode 296, and guests that have just absolutely blown my mind, from Bruce Lipton to Rob Wolf to Dean Radin to Sean Baker. Just, it's like, in some way, I believe that everything that the opportunities that come to me are a nature of my ability to manifest them, to bring things, to attract things towards me. And in this way, I'm just stayed in my gratitude for being able to do this as a job. It's killer.
Right. And what we do is different, but we do have some mutual friends like Rob Wolf and Robert Sykes. Actually heard you on Robert Sykes' show. And he's someone that I met doing a low carb cruise, speaking, kind of thing. So we have a lot of mutual friends, and a lot of this stuff that is just about, I want to look at my body and understand how I can change some things. A lot of people they have these issues that they're dealing with, and they just have this mindset of, oh, well, my mom was like that, so I'm just stuck like this. And people don't always know that there's things that you can do to change what you're dealing with and change the way that your body functions. And so I want to dig into some of that stuff with you. But before the podcast, were you ever like a guest on the podcast, or did they just call you up and say, "Hey, here's the keys. Let's see how you drive it"?
Yeah, I was actually. I was episode 4 of the Optimal Performance podcast. Yeah, Ryan Ryan had me on to talk about flotation therapy. And I started opened a flotation therapy center in 2012 and then another one in 2014. And so we dove narrow and deeply into all things float tanks, sensory deprivation. And so, yeah, we had a relationship there. And yeah, I guess they trusted me that I would be able to do a good job and carry it. So yeah.
Well, and that's really what your show focuses on mostly about is a lot of biohacking. And what else would you say that you really focus on a lot on your show?
Well, I'm really interested in personal development. I'm really interested in how we can get the most from the least. And that really spans all disciplines. So the food that we eat, the movement that we do, the way that we think, management of our time. And so above and beyond, continuous glucose monitors that you're tracking your glucose through an app, which is sort of like hardcore biohacking fundamentals. Um, I'm also interested in, holistic health, natural health, mentality work. I've had ayahuasca shaman and Vedic astrologers and authors of some really sort of fringe stuff because uh, wisdom that helps you be better doesn't have to be confined to macros or the latest sort of trend in nutrition. I think it extends how we see ourselves, what our self-talk is all about, how we relax, how effectively we recover. So all of these areas that are just so fascinating to me. It's like, well, if I'm curious about this, then there must be lots of other people curious about this too. So I just keep rolling and rolling.
Yeah, and it all ties in there because a lot of people do view it as, the way that my health is relates to the macros that I eat. A lot of people view it that that's the only factor involved, and they don't understand that two different people could eat those and process those foods very differently. But also, this person over here, if he's stressed out to all kingdom come, then his body's going to process that same food differently than someone who's just chilling. So all these things factor into what we're
Right.
doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, increasingly, preventative health, holistic health, natural health, what all these buzzwords are, it's just highly individualized and it's individualized day to day. Just like to your point, the genes that I was given, that I was born into, are not the genes that I have now. I've been able to activate. Um, when you think about Dr. Ben Lynch, the author of Dirty Genes, who's kind of a friend of mine and has been on the podcast twice. You can activate, you can affect your genes, and my family is heavy, and so rather than just sort of use that as a cop out for like, well, I'm just big boned, or that's just my reality now. Is just I'm just going to be overweight my whole life. I've found ways of eating and exercising that help me optimize the body that I'm given. I think going into the future, especially with the fact that we're now isolated and sort of contained in our homes, the future of medicine is going to be specific to the individual. This one size fits all application of different medical um, practices and so forth. That's my puppy back there, by the way.
Hey, puppy.
Yeah. Now you can do remote blood work. You can do genetic testing. You can do, at-home testosterone tests, and then you can work with a doctor remotely through Zoom or through phone calls that will help you figure out where you're at. Taking a multivitamin is better than not taking anything, probably. But if you know that your vitamin D levels specifically need to come up, and that you need to boost testosterone, and that your cortisol levels are high, well, then those are the things that you should be specific about. Those are the things that you should supplement for and hack for and really focus on, rather than, this one size fits all approach to medicine. So it's going to be, I think, in 5 or 10 years. In fact, I'm building a tool right now that's banking on this, is that everything is going to have to be specific to the person, and also specific to where that person is in that moment. If you haven't been sleeping well for a month, then you're going to have a different consideration set for the things that you want to improve. And as you incrementally get better and better, sleep better, eat better, less body fat, more energy, greater wellness, then you can enhance it, and you can use that vitality that you have to go be your best in the world.
Right. And I think that something that you said is really important is that even if we could pretend that there's not a pandemic right now, and what you're saying is still going to happen as far as medicine having to transition a little bit more towards the individual, because that's what people are starting to ask for. People like you and I who squawk all the time about this stuff, people are starting to learn that it's not a one size fits all approach and that each individual is different. And they're starting to mention that to their doctor. And when the doctor, they can only blow up so many people before they have to start listening to that. And there's enough people now who understand that that the food that they eat matters. That's kind of new information when you kind of look at the last 30 or 40 years. That's not something that we've actually known for that long. We thought that it was the amount of food that you ate, but we didn't know that the actual food that you ate made much of a difference. So the more people are becoming educated, the more that the medical field is going to have to adapt to the things that other people are doing. So before we get in, because I want to talk about the float tanks that you mentioned, but before we do that, can you kind of define to people listening what you feel biohacking is? Like, what is that even all about?
Yeah, the biohacking is really taking a look at what's in you, what's on you, and what's around you, and making adjustments to increase your health to live a more optimal life with the least amount of work possible.
Great.
Now, that in and of itself is if you think about all of the things that are literally in you, on you, and around you, because this extends to EMF inside your house, this extends to fabric softeners on your clothes, let alone the health of your gut flora. But looking at those three variables and then making making hacks to these three areas of your reality is really at the center of biohacking, so that you can live your optimal life.
Okay, and so let's talk about the float tanks a little bit, because you opened a whole business around this, and it sounds like you kind of did this when there were only like 11 people who knew what it was.
Yeah.
So what was that all about? Like what got you to that? And I really want to dig a little bit into the benefits that somebody can receive from doing a float tank, because I've never done a float tank, but I have a friend that she did one just last week, and she hasn't shut up about it since. So I want her to either shut up or I want to know a little bit more about it. So we need to figure out which one of those we can do.
Well, first things first, don't listen to anything I have to say. You have to go do it for yourself. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
What city are you in?
I'm in Jacksonville,
Okay.
Florida.
Okay. So if your friend went to one, I know that
it was here. It was around
Yeah.
here that she went to. Yeah.
So it is if the effects that you get from 60 minutes in a float tank were in a pill, if you could take a pill and get the same effects that you get from 60 minutes in a flotation therapy tank, it would be the best-selling product in the history of products ever.
Yeah.
It is unlike anything else on the planet. The benefits, there's a lot of there's so much here. So one of the most important, the way that we framed it at Float Seattle was recovery, stress relief, and meditation. And those are sort of the core pillars of what floating can do for you. And there are chemical explanations, there are spiritual explanations, but let's stick with the chemical. So when you are in a state, when you are buoyant inside of a tank of 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt water, maybe you've got some music on, maybe you have the lights on still, but usually, in the silent darkness, the water is 93.5 degrees, which is the external temperature of your skin. You literally, it is specifically, the environment is specifically curated to allow you to detach from your body a little bit. And what happens is that we are constantly in a sympathetic state. So when you're talking about the central nervous system, we are.
And I do a lot. I talk about this a lot, by the way. Yeah.
So that we are constantly on guard. Oh, there's an email that just came in. a Facebook, I just got a fake Facebook DM. Like email alone is responsible for this massive amount of stress that we have in our life, let alone Netflix and bills and, global crises. So we're constantly on edge, like we're going to get eaten like a saber-toothed tiger, when in fact, we're not. So the float tank is the most effective tool to get you out of sympathetic and into parasympathetic, so that you can rest and digest and recover and just like basically just feel okay. There's an interesting thing that happens in the brain, which is called the default mode network, and there's great research that talks about the default mode network and flotation therapy. So when you're sort of by yourself and nothing else is going on and you don't have too much external stimuli, there's a sort of a theme happening in your default. What's your default sense? Are you self-critical? Are you highly pensive? Are you stressed out? Are you chill? And what the flotation experience does is it sort of reduces the effect of the default mode network. Same thing happens with like psilocybin mushrooms, and same thing happens with deep states of meditation. And so you get more in touch with who you are, because the default mode networks are quiet. So the stories that you tell yourself diminish and you can actually relax a little bit. You're an inch taller in the float tank because of the traction that you get in your spine.
All right, I'll go.
Yeah.
It's all good now. All right.
You're
yeah,
in.
That's all.
You
That's
got
all you
back
had to
pain?
do. No, I just want to be tall.
Because of the traction. So like gravity is responsible for something like 95% of our central nervous system. So just the fact that we have to contend with the fact that things fall towards the earth, we're constantly battling that. So when you take that away and you're totally weightless, you're totally buoyant, and you sort of lose track of where the water ends and your body begins, this deep sense of calm comes in. Cortisol goes down, epinephrine goes down, norepinephrine goes down. Then you have a little time and space to think, to relax. You can just sort of space out and get more in touch with yourself. There's lots of studies about the benefits coming out of the Laureate Institute of Brain Research in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And you absorb magnesium through your skin, and magnesium is an essential mineral that helps with our mitochondria. It reduces swelling, lubricates joints. I mean, I could go on for days about the benefits. It's just an incredible practice that's unlike anything that you've ever experienced before. I mean, I think you got to go do it, man. I think you got to go do it like this week.
Yeah, I probably do. Now you talked about mushrooms a little bit, and you said that there's similar things that happen to the brain too. Is a float tank going to be a similar experience to someone doing some kind of psychedelic things or something?
No, it's not. I mean, it can be, but at its fundamental level, it's not. You're not going to trip out and lose touch with reality when you're floating. What you will likely do is feel more relaxed than you ever have in your entire life. And you oftentimes in a 60-minute float, it feels like 20 minutes. Time just passes super quickly. What's most likely to happen is that you will feel that when you get out of the float tank and you shower off and you start to put your clothes back on, your brain feels clear, your body feels like stretchy and pliable. Your sense of wellness is just incredible. The reason I got into it, back to sort of your original question, was it marries all these amazing things that I really love. So I left a 6-figure job in working in radio, and I thought, what's something that's weird and feels good and helps people. And that it was floating. It was flotation therapy. It was the thing. I talked my wife into it, and we bootstrapped it, from the ground up, and built this cool brand that now has, 3, probably now close to 4 locations, and has helped over 60,000 people, get really profound recovery and rest in their life. I mean,
That's awesome.
I can't say enough about it.
Right. And you can't, if whatever it is, because there's a lot of freaky things out there that we might hear about and go, oh, yeah, that's stupid. But when you're helping 60,000 people, there's something about that that's beneficial, and we might not even really know what it is. You might not even really know what it is. We don't even know how the body really works. We're just doing the best we can with what we have. But when there's that many people, they unless you have the most amazing coupon that you send out that's ever existed, you're not going to get 60,000 people to sign up unless people are actually seeing benefit.
Yeah, I mean, you do it once and you get it. It takes kind of 3 sessions to really understand sort of the profundity of the effect that lasts for days and days and days afterward. Oftentimes people talk about like 3 days later, they feel more calm. They're sleeping better. They're more relaxed. Yeah, it's not snake oil. It is, the beauty of it is that it is you. It is you. This is your base level. This is your sort of base level of consciousness and wellness. And you bring yourself into the float tank, and the experience that you have is dependent on where you're at in your mind and in your body. Like all of that positive effect that you get is because you're a beautiful, infinite being, and you should chill out.
Simmer down now.
Right.
And how often does, like, if a person goes and floats, how long do those benefits usually last? I know that's got to be different for everybody, but
Yeah.
I mean, how often is a person going to want to go back or need to go back to reap those benefits?
Well, there's members that have been floating, 3-4 times a week for years at the locations. So these are people who are, sometimes dealing with like MS or fibromyalgia or insomnia or chronic arthritis. They're just in pain constantly, and floating is really the only thing that helps them relax their body and relax their mind, and access these states of recovery. So you can't overdo it. You're not going to get, too much magnesium or anything like that. You're not going to get too relaxed. For most people, what I suggest is some of the best research that's come out on this is out of Sweden, which says they did a research study about workplace burnout. And they found that if you did 9 floats in 27 days, that was enough to drastically reduce workplace burnout. So it was like, yeah.
And what would that set a person back to do 9 floats in a month? I don't even have any clue what this kind of stuff costs.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the location, there's different, packages that you can purchase. You can float 9 times in a month for, probably $150, $200
For 9 times you get,
yeah.
So it's kind of like it's like a tanning bed where you're paying for however many you want to get, and you just go when you need to go.
Yeah, and everybody does their pricing differently. Most places, your first time float is between like $40 and $80. It's worth every single dollar. If you went in and said, "Hey, I want to," if you're listening to this now and you say, "Man, I want to go find," you can go to flotationlocations.com and find a float center that's nearest to you, and just call them up and say, "Hey, I want to float 9 times this month. I want to start the year off strong. I want to float 9 times in 27 days. What can you do? What's the best possible deal you could do for me?" They're gonna want you to come in, and they'll give you a competitive price. They'll give you the best deal that they possibly can. There's specials and stuff like that, but
Right.
It's a float, a day off, a float, a day off, a float. So it's 3 floats in a week, and then you're going to do that 3 weeks in a row. Wait, did I get that right?
I didn't know there was going to be math involved. I didn't.
Yeah, sorry, dude. That was
yeah, I didn't. I wasn't prepared for that.
You can't overdo it.
Okay.
However often you want. There's one guy who I remember, his name's Vadim, and he doesn't listen to your pod. Well, maybe he does. Vadim floated every single night for 100 nights. He's a programmer at Microsoft, and he was fried. He was totally fried. He was totally burnt out. He had all the stress. He had all this pain, and he floated every single night at like 10 o'clock at night for 100 days in a row. And he was a different person. I mean, there's no end to it.
Right. And I think this is really beneficial. And for people listening, it's not just, and I don't know if you know about this, Sean, but it's not just the stress on our life or in our environment and all these kind of things with our body. But even if you have a life that's not stressed, but let's say that the resources in your body are low, which can happen for a variety of reasons, like poor digestion, or maybe somebody's peeing out more minerals than they should for a variety of reasons. But if that's low, that's a stress to the body. That's the body's like saying, oh, I'm trying to pay $800 worth of bills with $12. It's a stress to the body when those resources are low. So you could be pushed extremely into this sympathetic state, even if your life is, you could be doing alms all the time, but your body could still be stressed, which
Yeah.
pushes you into that state, which changes the way that your body functions and can create a wide variety of health issues. So I'm a big proponent of there's usually more than one way to correct a problem. And we have methods that we use to help people pull out of a sympathetic state. But this sounds like a very easy and low effort way, because I can lie there. I can do
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
I know how to
Yeah.
lie there.
That's all you got to do.
I could
That's all you
focus
got
on
to do.
doing that. Yeah.
That's the beauty of this. You don't need to know a mantra. You don't need to have a posture. All you do is show up, shower, close your mouth, breathe through your nose, and just lay back in this warm, salty water and just hang out. And the
And you don't
benefits
have to
happen on their own.
focus on not drowning. You just kind of float because of all the salt in
You
the
just,
water.
yeah, exactly. Just like the Dead Sea. You've seen pictures of people laying back in the Dead Sea and they just float right on top of the water. It's just like that.
Okay. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So that does seem like that could draw a lot of benefits. If you don't have anything else that we need to touch on about that, I want to hit on some other things too. Is there something else that we need to say about float tanks before?
You should do it. Everyone should do this. This especially now, just the magnitude of stress and fear and worry and all this stuff that's happening right now, you will feel way better after this. So, I mean, just a call to action, go do it. Don't think about doing it. Just go do it.
That's cool. Flotation. What's the website?
Yeah. It's flotationlocations.com.
Okay. And we'll put that on the show notes page too, if anybody is driving or something like that. So Sean, what I want to know, especially before we get into your favorite biohacks, is there a couple that maybe you've learned from guests on your show that maybe you didn't know about that you're like, oh, these are pretty awesome?
I'm big into mouth taping now.
Cool. I do hear a lot about that.
Yeah. So
my wife asked me if I would do that. I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
why
I'm sure she
was
did.
asking me. I didn't know if it was the same thing, but she did recommend that to me.
While you're sleeping or just all day?
Just all the time.
All
Just
the time.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, right now around me, I have a cornucopia of different biohacking devices. I've got the Phoenix, which is an erectile dysfunction device that uses shockwave therapy. I've got the Happy wearable necklace, which is a programmable to influence your mood. You can choose
HAPBEE.
Yep. It's a necklace that you wear that you can program specific moods on it. It's incredible. I've got a red light
So
therapy.
it's not an EMF necklace. You're programming moods of you on the necklace.
You are choosing between currently there are 6 different emotions, 6 different moods that you can tap into. One's focused, one's sleep, one's calm. There's 3 others that you wear, and I did a whole episode on it, and it emits this super low frequency that connects with certain molecules that are responsible for certain moods, and that blew my mind. I mean, the fact that you can put that on and like dial up happy. I let my grandmother use it. She's 88 years old. She doesn't sleep very well. And I suggested that she try this, and I had her put it on, and I said, I want you to use this tonight before you go to bed, put it in calm mode. And then while you sleep, I want you to turn it on and put it underneath your pillow for sleep mode. And then let's just talk tomorrow. I called her the next day, and she said, I have no idea how this works. I don't care to know, but I slept 10 hours. And this is the kind of gal who, she really struggles to sleep longer than 60 minutes at a time. She said she slept 10 hours straight. She said she slept so much that she almost peed the bed in the morning because she'd been she's sleeping such a long time. That devices like those, I think, are pretty incredible.
Well, I don't want you to think that it doesn't sound like you just made that up. I don't want you to think that. It sounds a little bit like you just made that up, but you also held up a package right in front of me and I saw it. So it was a real thing. So how long have you been using that? And how much of a drastic difference have you experienced?
Let me see. So I did an episode with the founder on the Performance podcast about a month ago, and he sent me one, and I've been using it for mostly for focus. So I'll put it on when I'm composing or when I'm editing podcasts is sort of second nature, so I don't really need it for that. But when I'm like especially writing things, I put that on, and I noticed a slight uptick. So I take all sorts of nootropics for different moods, and I can hack different things with different consumables. But this, I notice like probably a 20% change in my
Oh, that's pretty
focus.
cool.
It's noticeable. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's noticeable. So I've been doing it. I do it. I use it probably 3 times a week. 3 times a week.
And it is pretty fun. Just, people are smart. They send you things so that they can get exposure and get people to learn more about them. But it is kind of fun with what we do just to get these things and get
Yeah.
to try them out. And I used to have this thing. It was called the Gear Awards, and it was a health and fitness and organic products awards program where literally our office was just packed with gym equipment and all this stuff that people would send us to test out. And that was a lot of fun. I really liked being able to see, because a lot of the things that people make that are legit awesome
Yeah.
never take off, and they go out of business, and all these people
Right.
don't even get to know about them. So that's a lot of fun just to kind of get to test things out like that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff, and I could rattle off 15 other things, but the original question was, what are some things that I think are sort of key? And for me, there are really sort of two biohacking pieces of equipment that are my favorite of all time. They're absolute game changers. The first is blue blocking glasses. So
And you have
for
some on now.
yeah, for those of you that are watching on the video, I have these yellow tinted glasses from Blue Blocks. Um, the research supports that when you are looking at blue screens during the day and at night, it's screwing with your eyes. That 400 to 550 nanometer wavelength of blue and green light gets through your eyes and signals to your brain it's daytime. So when you're looking at screens at night, your body thinks it's daytime, and that's why you never feel tired. That's why you can go through a whole series. You can watch all of Downton Abbey in a night and be like, well, I just don't feel tired. It's now 3 a.m. and I haven't gone to sleep. That's because your brain thinks it's daytime. So these ones that I have are daytime, they're yellow tinted, and the ones that I wear at nighttime are orange tinted. You do not know what you're missing out on until you try it. I mean, honestly, the orange tinted blue blocking glasses that I wear from Blue Blocks at night have totally changed my sleep. Like I feel tired when it's appropriate time to feel tired. I sleep deeper and I wake up more than anything. I just wake up feeling rested, which wasn't really happening for me. I've got 2 kids and
Right.
all those excuses. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Right, exactly. I have the same number of kids, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And I do feel like I need to be honest when I say that I was not able to get through 3 episodes of Downton Abbey. I just feel like I need to let everybody understand that, because I know that's a popular one. It just didn't fit right, so it didn't work for me. But for my listeners who understand the anabolic and catabolic states and what those mean, what Sean's saying is a lot of times when we're looking at these computer screens and all this stuff at night, it's confusing our body of where it really should be, and you're
Yeah.
using the glasses to kind of shield that a little bit.
Yeah, it's screwing up your circadian rhythm.
Right.
It can cause a lot of damage. It can cause inflammation. It can cause anxiety. If you're just not recovering effectively because you're actually not producing your own melatonin, or it's super reduced, what that means that you've been asleep for 2 hours, but you're not getting into phase 2 and phase 3 sleep, which is like really deep sleep where you converts, where you build muscle, where you convert short-term to long-term memory. Like that's pretty important stuff.
Right.
And if you're not getting deep enough sleep because you have not created the melatonin that sort of activates that sleep state. So for me, blue blocking glasses are like number one. Number two is a piece of workout equipment that has totally changed the game for me. I mean, I was a college athlete. I played soccer in college, and I never was really a CrossFitter, but I did some jujitsu, and I've always been a little heavy. Just been kind of soft. And are you familiar with the X3 bar? Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. So the hard part about this is because I understand that this is going to sound a little bit like an infomercial, and I
Sure, let's
don't.
do it. Why not? Yeah, let's
Well,
just do it.
the science supports it. The inventor, a guy named John Jaquish, was the inventor of the Osteo Strong, which is a training device to help with osteoporosis, to build bone density.
Sure.
And his second product is this thing called the X3 bar, which uses bands, really, really thick bands. It's so simple. These really thick bands that your whole workout takes 10 minutes, and it crushes you. It
Oh yeah.
absolutely crushes you. There's a push day that involves legs, and there's a pull day that also you do legs. So pull day is bicep curls, bent over rows, deadlift, and calf raise. You can get through it in 10 minutes. Well, I've been using it for 2 years now, and I'm in the best shape. I've never had abs before. Like I in 10 minutes a day, 6 days a week, I have the best physique I've ever had at 37. And those two things, the blue blocking glasses and the X3 bar, to increase protein synthesis, to build lean muscle, to like actually get muscles and abs on my body in 10 minutes a day. Those are my top two.
Now, is this X3 bar? Is it like a bar, or is it a piece of equipment, or
So
some?
it's four bands that are different thicknesses.
Uh
It's a
huh.
bar with hooks on it that hooks onto the bands,
Uh huh.
and then a platform below. I have
Oh,
it right
great.
here. It's really simple. It's a 6-piece set. You can travel with it. It takes up
Oh,
almost zero space.
nice.
I've been using it. It's all I do for exercise. I go on hikes a lot with my kids. We live in the woods, and so we're out on walking on trails and stuff like that really frequently. But I don't lift weights anymore. I haven't lifted weights in like 3 years, and I haven't done any sit-ups at all in years. And I'm in the best shape of my life. I also have done a lot to increase my protein intake, so I'm getting basically 200 grams of protein every day. So that has made a big difference too. But those two things, to hack my physique and to hack my sleep, are game changers.
Oh, that's really great. Yeah, that's really fun.
Yeah.
Something else that you breezed past really quick that I want to go back to before I forget is the nootropics and the brain performance and that kind of stuff. It's not something that I do a whole lot of as far as actual supplements that people use specifically for brain things. I kind of go other routes. So I really want to hear about that from you.
Yeah. Well, there's the class of vitamins for your brain are just called nootropics. So any sort of stack of different roots and extracts and stuff, combined into a formula to help your increase focus, increase mental clarity, increase your ability to focus for longer periods of time, are considered nootropics. So there are lots of different kinds, there's lots of different brands. And I've been tinkering around with different nootropics for different effects, right? So in the afternoon, after a work day, I try to end my work day at like 3 or 4 o'clock, so I can be with the kids and do dinner and stuff. And
Sure.
oftentimes I'll work again later at night. But there are products that you can take in the afternoon time to like increase your serotonin, so that you can feel calmer, so that you can feel happier. And there's lots of different products that can do that. I see what I'm doing now is I'm trying to stay away from like saying specific
Saying
products.
specific things. It's okay because it's just you're not selling anything right now, and
No.
it's very difficult to talk about how to benefit something without saying the things that work. And I tell this people a lot because,
Yeah.
man, when I don't know if you know about how I got into this, but I lost my voice for 8 years, and I spent over $100,000 trying to get it back. And you try all this stuff that doesn't work, and then somebody wants you to explain to them how to do something. It's kind of hard to do that without talking about the things that work, because so many things just don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are specific ingredients that are associated with neurotransmitter support. We have kind of four key neurotransmitters. Serotonin is the feel good one. GABA is your ability to
Hmm.
like pump the brakes mentally. Acetylcholine is your ability to like focus and think clearly, and dopamine is like motivation. So those four neurotransmitters kind of are the ones that are governing your entire day. There's other ones like histamines and all sorts of other different neurotransmitters. But when you know that you can take a supplement to enhance or support a neurotransmitter, and I suggest everybody go and take what's called the Braverman assessment. You can go and take this. This is what I do for some of my clients.
I
Is I
have
have
heard
them
of
go,
this, yes.
yeah, and it will tell you if you're dominant or deficient in specific brain chemicals, and then you can take blue vervain or ashwagandha, or you can take qualia or neurofuel to help get your brain into the state that you want it. Obviously you don't need dopamine at 10 o'clock at night. It's just, you don't need to be highly motivated and energetic at 10 o'clock at night, but
Unless you're trying to get through Downton Abbey at that time.
unless you are committed to finishing
I
Downton
wasn't
Abbey.
committed. I didn't have enough nootropics to get through that. That's probably
Yeah,
what it was.
yeah, yeah. There's different things that you can do, and I would look at Natural Stacks. They have really awesome products. They're all natural, open source, and third party lab tested. So there's no funny business in there. There's no.
That's good. There's not a lot of companies that do all those things.
They're one of the very few that do all three of those things. So that you know what's in it, where those ingredients come from, and that not many people do that. So I experiment with lots of other different herbs and tinctures, and I use a lot. I've experimented with dozens and dozens of different types of CBD products that I really love. Some I didn't really do or feel anything. One thing that I've been taking a lot lately is called Shilajit. Are you familiar with Shilajit?
Yes, I am.
So I didn't know what I was missing until I started taking Shilajit regularly, every other day. It's this tar like biomass, this like brown goo.
When I got it, I actually got a Shilajit rock that I had to like hack stuff off of and like grind it down. Like I actually had the rock, and I was like, I'm supposed to take a rock. Do I lick it? I don't understand what I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this sort of goes back to something that we touched on really earlier, which is we just don't get the nutrients that we need from food anymore. The level of soil depletion, even if you're 100% organic, even if you're growing your own food at your own home and you're living off of the food that comes out of your garden, the soil is less nutrient dense. So
organic means no toxins. That doesn't mean that they're putting any nutrition into the soil and not replenishing
exactly.
it. That doesn't mean that. So it's a problem.
Broccoli is something like 3 times less nutritious than it was 20 years ago. I mean, so we have to supplement those nutrients, those sort of core building blocks, so that we can just be at a baseline, not even optimal, but you need to be taking these things if you want to be able to be your best and have the energy that you want. And nootropics are just are a biohack or a shortcut to get into those different mental states.
So I cut you off a little bit. Go back to Shilajit a little bit and talk about the benefits. Is there a form that you take, or do you have your own rock you got to hack off of too? Is there a capsule form or something like that?
No, I got a little like what's the company that I did? I just sort of found them on Instagram. You have to be careful for heavy metals. So you ask for their heavy metals tests to ensure that what you're taking isn't just like loaded with arsenic and mercury. And mine just came in a little jar and with a little scooper, and it was like it was gooey, like molasses kind of sort of that consistency. And you just take a little scoop, swirl it around, swish it around in a glass of for me it's reverse osmosis water that comes out of the well at my house. Swirl it around in the morning, and for me that has been a real energizer. I feel like stronger. I feel more, I feel like physically more capable when I have all of those, whatever. I don't even know how many minerals are in there, but it's like all these ridiculous names of different like minerals and electrolytes that you've never heard of before.
Right.
Yeah. Just one of, dozens and dozens of things that I just kind of do every day.
That's great. If you have the link for that one, I'll ask you to send it to me, and I'll put that on the show notes page. And for people listening, this can be especially good for people who are electrolyte deficient and who are missing a lot of minerals. Shilajit can be a good way to kind of help lift that a little bit.
Can you one thing because one thing that I what are some attributes? I'm going to turn this around and ask you this question. You know, for someone who is electrolyte deficient, what are some of the symptoms?
Symptoms and things that they'll
Yeah,
experience and stuff like
headaches or
that.
tired. What is it?
So headaches could be one. Usually there's some hypoglycemia attached to the electrolyte deficiency when they're going to have headaches. But the biggest one is that there's going to be cravings and there's going to be
Mm,
depression and or anxiety. They could have dizzy spells, things like bipolar disorder and stuff like that.
mm,
Emotional type issues is really common. And it's because that the minerals in the body help the body send signals from the body to the brain and from the brain back to the body. And when there's not enough minerals in there, a lot of those signals will kind of fall off.
mm.
So that's why you see a lot of those emotional type issues and things where the body needs to communicate like it would if you're having dizzy spells. It's not communicating correctly. That's at least one cause of dizzy spells. But
Yeah.
those are the most common types of things when mineral levels are too low for somebody.
Got it. The connection between the brain and the body isn't vibing because there's not enough conductivity through the minerals and electrolytes. Yeah, that's
Right.
cool.
And a
Oh, that's
lot of that
fascinating.
has to do with what you just said about that our food doesn't contain the minerals that it did long ago. And then what's really common is that somebody won't be able to digest that food and pull any of the minerals out of it. And then they're really screwed. So
Yeah,
that's kind of
right.
those are two-folded problems that kind of happen. But so that's why we use supplements to kind of help that out. And
Yeah.
and it's been a long time since I've used Shilajit, but I did use it in the past with success. So I'd like to see what kind of product that you're using. I'd love to test that out and share it with my users if it goes well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I remember the name. It's called Pure Himalayan Shilajit.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
Okay, great. Pure Himalayan Shilajit. And Shilajit is spelled like Shilij. It doesn't have a J in it and something weird like
Yep.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Shilajit. Shil or Shilajit.
Yeah.
Shilajit.
Yeah.
Shilajit.
So put that in Google and see what Google says about it. Pure
Yeah.
Himalayan
Put it
Shilajit.
in DuckDuckGo. I don't trust Google.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Do you have a little bit of time left? Are we doing okay?
Yeah, let's keep rocking. Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
I got all day.
Because I also really wanted to ask you about the infrared sauna thing. I know that that's something you get pretty jazzy about.
I love it. It's now part of my evening routine. You know, after the kids go to bed, I like to do my thing. I'll smoke some cannabis, or meditate, or journal, pray. Um, I've got an infrared sauna in my garage. I found it on Craigslist. You could easily spend like $6,000 for a brand new
Right.
sauna.
Yeah.
And so I held out, I saved up and held out and waited and waited and waited and finally found one for $600 that was used on Craigslist and put it together in a half an hour. And now it's just this amazing part of my eating routine. You know, you get the heat shock proteins, the literature on specifically sauna and this in the Nordic countries is kind of where they've done most of this research. It's like if it's 4 days a week for 20 to 40 minutes, it increases your longevity. And I don't know the statistics and I won't say them but I know that it helps longevity. It decreases all cause mortality. You know, I've been interested in detox pathways. Recently, I had an interview with Dr. Christopher Shade, who's from Quicksilver Scientific, and he was talking about these detox protocols. And none of us are detox. I mean, some of us are. Most of us are not detoxing properly, right? So irregular, don't sweat, like maybe ever, like hardly ever. We're urine is obviously all of us pee every day, but these sorts of detox pathways are not activated. So we're just sort of like slowly accumulating toxins over time. And
remind me to talk about it when I'm on your show. There's a big one that most people don't talk about. That's really the biggest pathway that shuts down for a lot of people. So we'll get into that. All my readers already know about bioflow, so we'll get that. But it's a really huge deal.
Yeah. So what for me, it's become, it's a lifestyle thing. I know that I know that it feels good because when I'm done, what I do, I don't have a cold plunge yet. I've got to get that sorted out. But what I do is I'll be in the sauna for 25 or so minutes at 149 degrees. It says infrared saunas rather than barrel saunas are like, the only way to describe it is like a rotisserie, right? So it's directed, it's cooking me, right? Rather
Uh-huh.
than heating up like an oven in the inside, it's the infrared waves are actually like penetrating my skin. So you can stay in there longer, but it's not going to get up to like 210, 230, like barrel saunas do.
Right.
So I'll be in the sauna for 20 minutes, breathing. I'll do different breath works and exercises by myself in there, obviously. And then I'll go out, I'll open the door, and then I'll just lay down on the concrete in my garage to kind of just chill out, stark naked, slippery as a fish, just like on my back in the middle of the garage. Luckily, my wife has never come out and seen me like that. Uh,
Luckily you remember to shut your garage door, and the neighbors don't come
yeah,
by and call
right.
911. There's a naked dead guy.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I'll go on my back and then I'll flip over to my stomach until like I feel, and I'll focus on my breath as I'm doing that, so you don't go that like, like seize up,
Uh-huh.
which is not good for your central nervous system. So I'll just like do breath work. I'll breathe out as I flip flop on the cold concrete, and I'll just jump back in. I'll do that 2 or 3 times. The longest I've done in the sauna is like 90 minutes with a couple of breaks, but usually it's like 30 to 45 minutes with one or two like trips to lay on the concrete.
So when you're
It,
doing the infrared and then go to the cold concrete, you're viewing that as beneficial, like they do with the cold showers and cold plunge kind of thing.
yeah, obviously
Cool.
not close to the same with the cold plunge. But I do need to, in fact, I was thinking about it. I was going to do it last week, but then the holidays. But yeah, that, that thermogenesis effect that you get from just opening and then closing and opening your pores and closing, that the just drastic changes in your internal temperature stimulate your immunity, and they do all these amazing things, and it feels good, and then I sleep like a rock and I feel good the next day. And so that's just now part of my eating routine.
Right. And I do hear a lot about that. I haven't done the cold therapy kind of stuff yet. And do you do that with even just in the shower? Is that something that you are fond of?
Yeah, I've been taking, exclusively cold showers for a couple of years now. I don't take hot showers anymore. Um, I feel now drained. Everybody takes hot showers, and I didn't realize that I was feeling really tired, after my shower.
Uh-huh.
But now, yeah, and there's a like a best practices for getting in a cold shower. The way that again, there's like chemical explanations, there's like biological explanations,
Right.
and then there's like, what the fuck does it feel like? Well, explain that. Well, when you are standing in a shower that has ice cold water running all over you, you really can't think about anything else. You, you can't worry about the day tomorrow. You can't really, be angry at your boss. You have to just breathe through this moment that is hard and uncomfortable. And that is a really good practice for anybody to try. It's like, it sucks for the 5 minutes that you're in there. It's
Hmm.
cold. You're doing your best to kind of stay calm to get the benefits, and then afterward, you're like 10% more chipper. Like you're just a little happier. Like, oh my god, I didn't just die right there in that cold shower. Like, yeah, I guess everything's okay.
Right. I used to work with a trainer. She'd always be like, "Why haven't you tried it yet?" And I'm like, "Well, because my shower has a knob. It turns to hot. So that's what I do." And but so I would make fun of her a lot, but I keep hearing all these people with so many benefits. And again, you just can't ignore the fact that so many people are betting from it. I still haven't tried it, but at least I'm not to the point where I'm making fun of it anymore. I understand, and I've researched a little bit to understand the benefits, and I do feel that they're valid. I just haven't turned the knob yet.
Well, here, try this. So the next time that you, maybe tonight, man, it's gonna be a big week for you between floating
Right. I got a
and
lot going
cold
on.
showers, man. Yeah. The way that I like to tell people to do it who are just starting is just take a normal shower like you normally would. And then, in the last like few minutes, if you're at an 8 temperature, go
Hmm.
down to like 6, and then go down to 4, and then and then step out of the water and turn it down to like 3, like cold. Like
Right.
doesn't, in Florida, your water's not even going to get that cold. It's, it's going to be
Right.
cold, but it's not, it's not like
Ish.
the Cascade Mountains, going straight into my shower head like I have.
Right.
Um, and then so you'll turn it to cold, but you won't be in the water yet. And then what you'll do is you'll put your face in first,
Mm-hmm.
let it go over your face, focus on breathing through your nose as your face gets cold, and then you'll step back and then turn around and then let it hit your back. Let it go on your back for like 30 seconds not even 30 seconds. Just do like 10 seconds as you breathe calmly, and then step out of the water again, and then turn around and then let it hit your chest. That's where it's the coldest. And then as it hits your chest and goes in like your armpits and as the water runs down your body,
Mm-hmm.
then you just like breathe through it for another 30 seconds and then you're good. And then from there, you can kind of work your way up to like, longer periods of time.
Yeah. And if anybody listening wants to try this at home, you can also, as you're trying it, cuss with Sean's name at the end. So just Sean McCormick, just cuss and then Sean McCormick, and that'll probably make it feel a lot better.
Call me. My cell phone number is.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Sean, this is really awesome. I love all this stuff. I really appreciate you hanging out. And you take on clients too, right? For coaching kind of client stuff.
Yeah, I do. Thanks for giving me a chance to talk about it. I work with all sorts of folks. I've worked with NFL players and CEOs of companies and, 9-to-5ers, I coach in 4 areas. The first area is like classic personal development. So goal setting, mentality, making sure that you're focused on being your best self. What do you want out of your life? Like we rarely ask ourselves that question. And when someone else is asking you and you're committed to your own growth, it's a little bit of a different story. So classic personal development is the first area. The second area is biohacking. How can you increase your energy? How can you look better naked? How can you feel like you're getting restorative sleep? Hacking through some of these different things that we've been talking about. The third area is professional development. You got to pay the bills. There's lots of things that you could do this week, today, that might help you advance yourself in your career. Or if you want to leave your career and go do something else, that comes up. And then the fourth is spiritual development, which is something that I don't often talk about, on my podcast, but it's something that's really important to me in my life. And it's non-denominational, but there are ways to get more in touch with spirit that you have. Like you have this inanimate operating system, this non-physical part of you, and getting in touch with that and honoring that and using that to be your best self is there's ways, and it doesn't matter if you're Buddhist or atheist or whatever, like there's something there. So yeah, those are the 4 categories and I love that work. I mean, I want to share this knowledge isn't just for me, all these little tricks and all these hacks and, these techniques, I've got online courses that I've built because I want to help as many people as I can. So yeah, I love coaching. It's the other one of the other things I do.
Yeah. And where can people find you and information on that stuff?
Yeah. You can go to my website. It's SeanMcCormick.com, SeanMcCormick.com.
And where do they find your podcast too?
Yeah, the podcast is everywhere. It's the Optimal Performance Podcast.
And I hear you have an awesome guest coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
Oh, that's me. Yeah.
Yeah. TC, have you met him?
Yeah, I know about him.
Yeah. I've
heard about him.
Yeah. I'm excited to swap.
He's a little hard to take at first, but just stick around and it'll be okay.
Nice. Good.
All right, Sean, look, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing and freaking some people out. I like getting into some of the freaky stuff and you can see that some of the stuff that people view as freaky at first is really just, it's not mainstream, but that's usually the stuff that works the best because we all know the mainstream stuff is crap.
Yeah, I think that we're on a road. We as a civilization are trending in a direction where we are going to be able to take our health into our own hands, where we do not have to rely on diagnosis and treatment or surgery or pharmaceuticals being shoved down our throats to help ourselves. We are going to be moving into highly individualized, custom nutrition, preventative medicine, alternative health, so that we can just feel good and look good and live the kind of lives that we want. So yeah, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to hammer through some of these things and to share some of these techniques with people.
All right. Sean, I appreciate you, what you do, and I appreciate you being here with us today.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it, man.
All right, take care. So pretty good stuff, right? That was pretty fun. And I'm going to bring on some more guests, and we'll get to learn some other stuff too, in between me teaching about the stuff that we often teach about as well. So if you want to check out any of the links that we talked about in the show, just go to kickitnaturally.com/episode 368. All right, guys, we'll talk to you guys soon. 'Cause I know a place where the sun is